What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Trailmakers. I have been spending so much time playing this game that I kind of want to do a little show and tell with you guys today. Now, next to me, I have some of my Lego models. Now, what I've done is tried to recreate two of my Lego models that I usually have on display in my living room, bedroom, wherever. So, the first one is, of course, this Mini Cooper. Now, every birthday I've ever had, every holiday, every gift-giving season, people kind of know, all right, we'll just get him Legos, right? For whatever reason, I always get Legos, and I absolutely love it. I've loved Legos ever since I was a wee lad, but the cool thing about this game is, while you can't find every single Lego piece, like a lot of the flat pieces aren't available in the game, so you kind of have to make things up as you go along. But what I'm about to show you guys may blow your mind. Some other people might just think I'm crazy for spending so much time recreating something I've already built in real life in the game. Now, that's just one of them. I do have another one you can kind of see. It's a little tiny guy over there. But let's go ahead and take a look at what I built. So I'm going to go into my blueprints. Over here, we have a 71 power core vehicle, and then we have an 89. Now, what that means is not necessarily 71 engines, but it has, we'll say, a power level of 71 versus the 89. So I'll show you the 71 first. The game actually does run quite a bit slower when I first drop in this model because there is a 700 block maximum. This one is using 699, and I didn't even get to finish the interior. You can see it's kind of just open right there. So let's go ahead and place it on the ground so we can get a little bit better look at it. On the interior, I tried to get the dials. Actually, what would be smarter or easier is to get into build mode, and then I can kind of navigate around a little bit easier. Yeah, that makes more sense. So interior wise, I did try to make the dashboard. I tried to get the radio right here. I tried to get some of the other little bits, like a little glove box handle, you know, even the door cards. I tried to actually make the upholstery inside the car. The only interior, aside from that I was able to actually complete is this back bench seat, which actually turned out really, really nice. I'll throw up some B-roll periodically throughout here so we can kind of compare this model to the original next to me. But all in all, I think I did a pretty good job at recreating this vehicle. The back end looks fairly similar to how it does in real life. I did have to elongate a couple of things here and there. Tried to make it look like it has a license plate. As for the wheel wells, or the arches on the vehicle, there is no good way to make it round. So it's kind of rounded edges, but yet square at the same time. This is honestly as good as I could get it to look. That took me the longest out of everything, is trying to figure out how to do the arches, because the Lego model has this pre-molded sort of over-fender arch, whereas in the game they don't have any blocks like that, so you kind of just have to make it up. But the front end turned out way better than I thought. Originally, I was going to use these little saucer looking things. They're actually eyeballs. It's like a decorative block. But I was going to use those for the headlights. Come to find out that it is a 2x2 block, whereas the light is actually a 3x3, so it wasn't going to work there, but I think I made it look okay. The hood was also an issue because on the Lego model it's angled slightly, whereas on this you can't actually angle anything. I could have probably put hinges, but again, I'm limited by only being able to use 700 blocks in total, so that wasn't really feasible either. The mirrors I am proud of, because on my Lego model, during a holiday time, you know, the little cousins come over, nephews, nieces, whomever, they love the Lego models. They love them. While I like to use them as a display piece, they like to play with them, and they play with them very hard. So I don't actually know where those mirrors went. I haven't seen them for a long time, but I was able to recreate what I think they looked like. This definitely wasn't the first model that I thought about trying to recreate either. I have a much smaller model next to me that I'll go ahead and talk about here in a moment, but there were things like Ferrari, I had an F40, I had a Lamborghini something rather, a long time ago. Those are all in pieces. I have no idea where most of them are. Whereas this was the only one I still had fully assembled. I also have like a Volkswagen Beetle and a Volkswagen Bus. But like I mentioned, it is really difficult to try to recreate a Lego model in the game, just because most of those Lego models, especially the car models, have these specially molded fenders or hoods or whatever. So it makes it a lot more difficult, whereas the Mini Cooper is pretty well square as it is. So I figured I'd probably have the best chance at doing this one. But you guys probably want to see if it drives, and I can tell you, it drives. It's not the greatest thing to drive, but it does drive. You can kind of see through this wheel arch right there, there are a ton of engines because this thing weighs a metric buttload, coming in at 1,100 kilograms. This is by far the heaviest vehicle I've ever created in the game. But if we take a look at the rear of the vehicle, you can see not only do I have exhaust, which is super dope. I didn't even know exhaust was an option, but we have some smaller little 4-cylinders crammed in here alongside the Dragon engines. So the Dragon engine has about 3,000 horsepower. The smaller Bulldog engine, this 4-cylinder, only has about 300 horsepower. So I tried to fill it with as many Dragon engines as I could to actually get this thing to move, but I did still have to add a couple of Bulldog engines because its acceleration was horrible. Now you're probably looking at this wondering, where the heck is the driver's seat? Where do you actually operate this thing? Well, it's kind of a little weird. I put the go-kart seat under the hood with a good majority of the other engines as well. It's very tight in here, but you can see we have, it looks like 4 Dragon engines on that side. We have 3 Bulldogs over there, 2 more Dragon engines right here in the middle, and then a similar story over on the right side. So tons of engines everywhere, and that was the only way that I could actually get this thing to move, just because it is so incredibly heavy. But I couldn't exactly race it because it would bottom out every single time. So we're gonna go ahead and delete this one, and I'm gonna bring in the second version that I made of it. This one is more of an off-road spec, more of a race spec. So you can see already it is slightly higher. There's much more of a gap in between the fender and the tire. It does have the same amount of engines, but what I did on this one instead is added a couple of jets just to make it that much faster, which did help. It doesn't actually tip all that much. I did have to delete a good chunk of the bottom portion of the front and rear bumper as well. Had to get rid of the exhaust, but this one is a much more pleasant experience to drive. And actually, I might even be able to race it really quick. I'm not gonna go super hard. I just wanna see if this thing actually holds up. It corners fairly well. It does still bottom out a whole lot, which is something that honestly I just have to try to adjust over time. But all in all, it's a pretty quick car. Unfortunately, it does like to take flight for whatever reason. Okay, yep, there goes the suspension. It's all over. It is all over. It's a very complex build on that one. Now, let's get into the second build that I tried to do. This little guy right here is a Porsche 911, not Porsche, you guys, not Porsche, all right? It's just like with Audi, it's not Audi, it's Audi. It's not Porsche, it's Porsche, all right? Just, that's all I'm gonna say. That is all I'm gonna say about that. But again, for I think my birthday, I believe my brother got me this little tiny model. So what I tried to do is replicate it as best as I could in the game, and I think it turned out a little bit better than the Mini, but just because it's so small and compact, again, it does have a lot of specialty parts that Lego made that aren't offered in the game because this isn't a Lego sponsored game, of course. But all in all, I think it turned out all right. Let's go ahead and check it out here really quick. Go into blueprints again. Okay, so I think this was the original, if I remember correctly, and then I tried to make another that was sort of a race spec'd version. I don't think I saved that one though. You can see the headlights as compared to the Lego model. They don't look as good. Everything's not really the way I wanted it to look, but all in all, I do think I was able to recreate the over fenders that this Porsche has fairly well. I would say the front probably looks better than the rear, but again, just because it is so small, it does kind of look a little derpy. It's not exactly perfect. It's definitely not a perfect recreation by any means. The backside I'm actually fairly proud of. On the Lego model, it actually uses plate, like thin plate pieces. Again, not an option in the game for the taillight. But what I did instead is just tried to make the taillight a little bit beefier, a little chunkier looking, and I think it kind of works. My favorite part about this one is, of course, the spoiler. I think on the model itself, it might hang off the back a little bit more. But again, I do think it turned out really, really nice. And unlike the Mini, I was actually able to put the cockpit of the vehicle where it should go, not in the engine bay. And I've completely plated the underside of the vehicle just to hopefully give it a little bit more stability. We have, I believe, 2 Bulldog engines in the back, a very unique suspension setup that surprisingly works pretty well. Now, what this did is actually made it a solid rear axle instead of having independent suspension on either side in the rear, whereas in the front, it has that independent suspension and can kind of move around however it wants to. I swear I put more engines in this thing, dude. Where are they? Oh, that's right. We have these mini boosters, these jets on the inside. Couple of engines actually underneath the seat. Actually, a bunch of boosters. Oh my god, I didn't realize how many I put in there. But this one's really meant for tarmac racing. It's not meant for off-road race at all. But let's get in here and we'll see what she can do, because a lot of this race is actually tarmac. I'm just kind of curious on how it holds up. I don't think I raced this one. I'm pretty sure I built it, and by the time I finished, it was like 2 a.m. So I just decided to call it a night. But as soon as I get up to this part, yeah, I can't steer at all because of the racing slicks, and that's that. But I'm super, super proud of both of these. Again, I'll try to put up some B-roll shots of the original Lego models versus this model right here. But you can already tell it does need a little bit more weight in the front. It's kind of got this rear sag to it. Honestly, I might be able to fix that like super quick. What do we got for a weight in here? 30 kilogram weight. Let's up that to a 50 kilogram weight. And now when we drop it on the ground, it's still a little tilted, but I think it looks just a little better. Now, as for the racing version for this one, I did have to actually widen the stance of the vehicle because it is longer than it is wide. Every corner I would take, it would flip over, regardless of the type of wheel that I had on it. But if you guys have this game, Trailmakers, and you want to be able to use these creations, feel free to let me know. I would love to put them on the Steam Workshop for you guys to be able to download and use and edit. But I think that is going to wrap up this video. So once again, if you guys did enjoy, please leave a like. Leave a comment, help support the dream by smashing that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace.